Hey, free to play gang. Welcome back to another video. Okay, so if you're wondering where the update video is, I didn't delete it, I privatized it. You can't actually look it up because it's currently privatized. And the reason why I did it is because I made a huge mistake in what I perceived Liling to do. And this is honestly quite a huge surprise to me because I always thought that his true damage portion was actually shit. But I guess not. So I'd like to explain how true damage works. Okay, so the way true damage works is you deal a damage based on your attack, and that is a fixed amount of damage. You cannot crit it. Okay, so you cannot increase that damage based on your crit damage. It doesn't work that way. So I always thought that, okay, so 80% of his attack, that's gonna be like maybe 4k at best, right? 4k extra damage. But then yeah, there is the per hit factor and all that. But anyway, with that out of the way, I've done the math alone, okay, just to prove myself wrong, and I did prove myself wrong. So let's talk about whether the first skill, second skill, and third skill, is it really such a big nerf? Okay, so in order for us to determine whether this nerf is a true nerf, we need to give him some kind of crit damage, because the thing is, true damage cannot crit, but your normal damage can crit, which is really important if you want to calculate what his second skill can do. But let's take a look at his first skill first, right? So attacks one enemy, deals 130% attack damage, steals 15% AP. That was the past. And right now you have a 50% chance of inflicting Sear for 2 turns. Granted, 50% is not 100, so that kind of sucks a little bit, but it is still a Sear. And like I said in the previous video, I don't think that the 15% AP is that big. I feel like the Sear debuff could be quite useful as well. So the result for the first skill is going to be a sideways shift. That's about it. He might be a little bit more relevant in Dark Starlord because he has AoE attacks, he has single target damage, nukes, kinda. And he also inflicts Sear, something like that. But let's move on to his second skill, which is where I made a huge mistake. So previously, attacks one enemy 5 times, each hit deals 36% attack damage and true damage. And the true damage is equal to 6% of the enemy's max HP up to 80% of your own attack. But after the changes, attacks one enemy 5 times, each hit deals 46% attack damage, and upon a crit, you gain 10% AP. So there is going to be a 28% increase in his damage over here, but he loses that true damage portion. So this is where crit damage becomes very important in determining the math over here. So the result is going to be mostly a nerf. It is probably going to be like a 90% nerf. Now, in most cases, you would do a full 80% attack scaling damage against all bosses and tower enemies using your second skill over here. And the total damage back then, it ranges from 540% up to 940% against like enemies with a lot of HP, for example. So the way this is calculated is 36% being his base attack damage scaling multiplier, times 5 because he hit 5 times, plus 400% because he hits 5 times, dealing a total of 400% damage based on his attack. So that goes up to 940%. But the thing is, if your enemy has like no max HP at all, this would then drop his damage down to 540%, which is why I say this is mostly a nerf. His changes would fix his damage to 46 times 5 times 3, and this 3 is obviously his crit damage portion, which is 690%. But the thing is, right now he will not be sandwiched in the middle, right? He's actually towards the lower end of what he were previously. And I also thought about it, but for most cases, the places where you're going to be using Liling is going to be like Chronos, okay, maybe not Apex, but like usually like boss content or tower content, or maybe even up against height. So that's the reason why I put this over here, right? Even up against height. So the true damage portion was actually pretty useful in dealing with heights with a lot of defense. So I have to say that this is mostly a nerf because of the places that you would use him in the first place. You wouldn't be using him against very squishy espers all the time. That's not really the case. And then for his third skill, I didn't even bother like highlighting anything because this is a definite nerf, right? From 354% down to 264%. This is a 100% attack damage nerf in his AoE multiplier. So all in all, I'm very puzzled why Liling was nerfed as hard as he was. I didn't think it was such a big deal until I did the math. But I have to admit that I was wrong in that video, and I would like to clarify about that, right? So there are some people who are saying that it doesn't really matter because you can just equip him with the Zeus Relic set and he's still going to perform that role, because I think most players want to build him with Zeus Relic set. But the thing is, at the same time, you're not going to be giving him a support Zeus set. You're going to be giving him a DPS Zeus set. You may give him more speed than usual, but it doesn't change the fact that he's still going to be a damage dealer, which means that all of this is still going to affect his kit a lot. And another reason why a lot of people are complaining is that he is the free-to-play Esper, right? He is the go-to Esper that all new players are going to get, and they are going to be getting something that is less effective and that people were not really thinking that Liling was that OP to begin with. I myself also didn't think that he was extremely OP. I felt like he was really good for what he does, but I would never ever classify him as like a double S Esper. He's at most S tier for me. Actually, now that I think about it, did I classify him as a double S? I might have. But anyway, now he's going to be losing a lot of value. That's for sure. He's going to be losing a lot of value. And on top of that, they decide to nerf Liling where they could have nerfed some other Espers. Like for example, Gaius, Jiang Jiuli. These Espers are still out there. These Espers are still instant win conditions. And I don't understand why they are not actually controlled as much as Liling. Basically, no one actually asked for this nerf, right? So I understand where you guys are coming from. I understand there may be a little bit of hate towards me because of what I did in the previous video. I truly apologize. I didn't do the math. That's on me, right? But what should we do moving forward based on this information? Am I still going to be using Liling? I think I'm still going to be using Liling. He's still going to be powerful, just not as powerful as he were before. I might do some tests if I feel like his kit is actually not as good as he were previously and that I'm actually suffering a little bit because of him. I might just rewind him, really depends. I'll be getting back 15 skill ups anyway. I can just dump it into wherever. I can dump it into my Abigail. But a takeaway for you guys is, I do not really want to talk too much about the Liling nerf. It is a nerf, it is going to happen, so be it. I want to talk more about what the developers should be focusing their time and resources on. And this is definitely not something that they need to be focusing their resources on. There is a lot of other things that they should have done. Like I just previously mentioned, rebalancing some of the other espers, maybe giving us some extra content to tide the next 3 weeks, because the next 3 weeks is basically like nothing at all. So leave your comments down below with what you think the developers should be more focused on right now. Should they be dealing with the drop rates? Should they be dealing with like the summon issues and all that? And someone actually brought up a good point, right? It's like currently November and no one's going to be summoning for tier, which means it's no nut November. Haha. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give a thumbs up. It really helps the channel and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been very free to play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.